On today's episode, Mike and Ryan return to stories about our brewing misadventures. Cheers. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Brewthers-In-Law podcast, where beer is thicker than water. Join us on a journey discovering home brewing, craft beer, and more. My name is Mike, and with me is my brother-in-law, Ryan. What up, Ryan?
What up? Season 3.
Season 3, and we're going to be returning to an old standby, which is talking about screw-ups.
Not always bad. Sometimes
actually,
it's good.
Little known fact, but we space our seasons so that, about every year, Ryan and I each manage to royally screw up at least 2 things, and so we can always do this episode.
I mean, I still have plenty that are sitting down.
You've got a backlog.
I got a backlog. It keeps growing. I think I had 4 this past year. We're going to use 2. So
one of the challenges of doing these Myth Brewster episodes is to...
Myth Brewsters. Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is not Myth... Myth Brewsters and Misadventures get wound around in my head for some reason. These misadventure episodes, this is our 3rd now, and we keep having to do first sips related to them, and it becomes more and more challenging every episode. So for this one, we are going to do brewing or non-brewing. We're going to put a positive spin on things. What is an experience you had or a brew day you had that began as a misadventure but ended in success?
So I do have one. There was a point in time I was trying to really experiment with lavender. And I think I talked about this as in the last misadventure, trying to make a lavender seltzer. Yes. And literally tastes like soap.
Yum,
so
delicious.
It was not even close. But as you heard in the Among Thieves episode that we did last season, I did a lavender blueberry mead. The original plan was not lavender blueberry. It was supposed to just be lavender. The reason there are blueberries is because I had to fight back that soapy flavor. It wasn't nearly as bad, but by putting in all these dried blueberries to get the flavor out of it, in a very long, I think I had the blueberries in there for about 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
Trying to suck all the flavor out, adding more in there because I wasn't getting enough flavor out of it. But because I added the blueberries, the flavor of that mead turned out super, super, super phenomenal with the balance between blueberry and lavender. So it was a misadventure, but by fixing said misadventure, I came out with a very good mead. I believe you've had that one of the 6-pack, right? Well, yes. Yeah, we did it on the episode.
Yeah. Well, you gave me a little bit extra, and we've been holding on to the extra to let it age a little bit and see how it is, because generally, I have yet to find one. That's why I baby that elderberry fig one so much, because it just gets better and better as it gets older. So I'm never in a hurry to get through them. I'll sort of wait till I can share it with somebody, and we can give it 6 months and see how much smoother it is than the last time. So I have to be honest. I had a really good idea here, and it has just completely escaped.
How much of those have you consumed so far?
Yeah, I know. No, it was just the stress of having to read the prompt. It's not that much stress.
I know it's been a while.
It completely blasted my original idea from my head.
Well, was it brewing related? Was it non-brewing related?
It was completely non-brewing related. I am actually going to use one that's sort of a joint misadventure of Haley's and mine, we took a vacation in Ireland, and it was it was a week-long tour. It was normally she plans our vacations because she likes doing that sort of thing, but this one we just bought a prepackaged thing. It was each night you got to stay in an old castle that had been renovated into a hotel, because they have so many dang castles there, they just turn them into hotels.
I mean,
it's pretty cool. But so it kind of resulted in, though, it was a bit aggressive of a driving schedule for a week, where it sort of felt like we weren't spending very long in any place. And we were in the Ring of Kerry, which is a really famously beautiful part of Ireland, like the sort of place you could, if you took your time, spend a whole week just there.
Oh, wow.
You can drive the Ring of Kerry, but then there's like all these pretty things and neat historical things and, you know, and little hikes, and you could spend a whole week there if you wanted. So naturally, and then on top of that, I believe we may have found a beer fest while we were there. Or like a sort of, like a little, like they were having like a little city festival sort of thing. So regardless, we ended up leaving way later than we thought. And the place we were going was way further away than we thought. And it turned out that the hotel was not going to be open. Like their reception desk was going to be closed when we got there.
Jeez.
And so like we called them and tried to like figure it out, and like they were going to leave our key hanging on some peg, and we were going to like whatever. We really didn't want that to be the case. So Haley was just like, she was driving at this point because we were trading off, and she was like, no, we can make it. And she just like, you got to understand too, like Irish roads, it's like just going the speed limit is hard. They're very windy. They are not big. You know, it's all hills and stuff. But like, it was the most epic drive she has ever made in her entire life. And we cut like a full hour off of this drive. It was supposed to be like a 4-hour drive, and we did it in 3 or something insane like that. And really without even ridiculously speeding. But it just, like I said, even going the speed limit felt like you were flying on these roads. So going even a little over, it was like, you know, it felt absolutely bonkers. And we made it. We made it 15 minutes before the hotel closed. We had enough time to go to the bar, have some drinks, and watch the little band that was playing, you know, the traditional Irish, like, sing-alongs.
Yeah.
And it was actually, like, the best evening, or the best night that we had, like, the whole time we were there that night. But it was only because she made, like, the most epic drive of her entire life. In the dark.
I don't think I've ever heard this story.
In the dark, like, going through, like, you know, these, like, hilly swamps. And, you know, it's like, there's trees, there's hills, there's, you know, elevation everywhere, skinny roads. It's dark. Yeah, it was like, it was pretty harrowing.
I don't think I've heard the story from you guys. I've heard other stories from Ireland, because that sounds similar to our adventure to get down to Orlando before our cruise left.
Oh my God, that would have been a really good misadventure, actually.
I almost thought about that one.
One that led directly to us having this podcast, because that was where you guys really got into another Zelda podcast, right?
Yep.
Oh, yes.
That'll be for another time, guys. I'll share that story. Don't worry.
Another time. All right. Well,
I do have listener feedback.
You do.
But we're going to save it for the end of this episode. So I reached out to different social medias, and I said, guys, brewers of any kind, tell me your misadventures that you had as well. And I got a ton of fun stories to share. So I will be sharing all those stories. At the end of this episode, I will mention who they are and where you can find them and everything as well, because they are great brewery content and great beer content as well. So
awesome.
So
can't wait.
Stay tuned for that. But
in the meantime, Ryan,
yes,
why don't you get us started with your first misadventure?
I have a more recent one I have a video to show you. I'm sorry, guys. I can't. I did do a TikTok.
Can you upload it to our Twitter?
I could actually. I made a TikTok of this already, so I'll upload it to the Twitterverse.
Do the social media thing where you upload one social media to another social media.
But see, they don't like each other. They don't like each other when you do that.
No? Okay.
No. Like, you got to actually, like, film it on your own, and then you just kind of put it into each one.
Well, that's a bummer.
And that means I have to get a filming, like, app on my phone. I'm like, no, that's just too much work at this point.
You can just film it in Snapchat and download it.
That's true.
Snapchat's not very good for reaching out to.
No.
Anyway.
So I recently, probably last year around this time actually, I needed to clean my lines, my beer lines. So the air lines are fairly new, so that's not an issue, but the beer line definitely needed to get a nice deep clean. And now, honestly, I probably should replace them. They're getting kind of grimy and everything, even with cleaning. So
I just had a pull of your...
I run. No, hold on. I do run Sandy through them before I run anything else.
No.
So
I know what you mean. They get discolored after a while. Yeah. It's just kind of
So I only did one because I had beer. I thought I had beer in the other one. I thought I'd finish off the other tap, which was the porter, the Kerwick porter actually, that I did for the 6-pack. And I thought the line was clean, all the beer was gone out of it. And I took the whole tower apart. I pulled out that line specifically. And I took out the connector for the handle and everything. And in that process, floosh, there was still beer
Oh, no.
in line.
Oh, no. And was this still hooked up to gas, too?
Yes, it was.
Oh, no.
So
you
I'm
just
going to
had
show
a hose
you.
of dark beer.
I'm going to show you the video. The aftermath.
Oh, my.
So
Oh, my.
it was a porter. It's super, super dark beer. But, like, I was trying to catch it. There was a lot more than this what was in the line. There was way more in there.
Yeah, like 5 yards away.
Yep. And filled 2 glasses
5
trying
feet
to stop it. So I had a wonderful time cleaning up this beautifully dark beer. And then clean the line and everything else. Yeah. I'm glad there's no carpet over here.
Thank God.
Yeah. So it was, for lack of a better term, it was a lesson learned to make sure that gas is off. Just make sure gas is off. You can have beer in the line. If there's no gas running through it, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, just disconnect the line from the keg.
Yes.
And, Yep. And otherwise, you're going to have a bad time.
You're going to have a bad time, yes.
That's a good one.
Definitely did the pizza instead of the French fry.
I didn't hear about that when that happened.
No. I was hiding that. That was a horrible mess.
Nice ski reference.
But yeah, no, it was. But I did clean the line. Line is nice and clean. And another line I do still have to clean. I'm hesitant. I'm a little gun shy now.
Oh, I didn't notice that you had drilled a hole in the side of your kegerator there.
Oh yeah, I wanted the CO2 outside to make it easier to get in and out, and I can fit more in there.
Awesome. You're gonna have to show me how to do that. I want to do that someday to mine.
See, it was funny when I was building it. Grandpa Sherbarth said that it was different to do it that way because you are going to lose some cold air through the hole.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, I fit 2 5 kegs easily now.
I feel
without
like it'd be a
anything
bigger
else.
problem for us having it out in the garage, losing heat. Like you down here in the basement's probably
not too bad. Plus critters getting in there too. You don't want to get critters in there.
Oh yeah.
When you get that basement,
beer.
man. When you get that basement.
Beer. Someday. Yeah, someday. Next year.
All right. So what is your next misadventure?
So my first misadventure is one that was so fun that we did it twice. So we brew,
I almost spit out my beer there.
we brew in a bag, so for those who are not brewers, that basically means that you have this giant kettle. You know, think like an enormous stock pot.
Yes,
You know,
like 5
15
gallons. Yours is bigger.
Ours is like 15 gallons.
Yeah.
It's huge. So,
What she said.
the one at the one at the time I think was like 10 or 12 gallons. So,
Okay. Yeah. So mine is 5. So
a big stock pot. And you basically take a giant mesh nylon bag and you sort of wrap it over the sides, and then you pour all your grain into that. Once you got your water warm, you mix it up, you let it sit for an hour, and then when it's done, you tie it off. And I have like a pulley in our garage that I use to hoist it up into the air.
That's key.
So that it can just sort of drip down gradually. You know, the excess beer can drip off of it while you finish your brew, right? It's just sitting on this pulley. So, but yeah, it's basically a bag that holds all my grain. And for our batches, we have anywhere between, 10 to 15 pounds of grain, depending on the strength of the beer. Yeah. So this one time, I had
one of two.
I had the beer on the pulley, the grain on the pulley. Yeah. So it's this like wet, spent grain. It was pretty much done dripping. The beer was heating up. It was darn near boiling, and I was taking it off. And I'd sort of knotted the bag around the pulley, and when I pulled it off, the knot came undone. I was holding on to the knot. So this entire 12 pounds of grain fell into the nearly boiling sugar water I was standing next to. And thank God it missed my face. But it got all over
kids weren't there.
It got all, yeah, I know. Thank God the kids weren't there. Yeah, they help us brew a lot. It got all over my clothes, and it didn't burn my skin, but it felt hot through my clothes, through my jeans and my But yeah, it just got all over everywhere. We lost a full gallon of beer. And talk about a mess to clean up. Like, we had to hose. Thank God it was in the garage. We had to hose out the whole garage. And it was just something of a mess. So, not fun.
No, not even slightly there.
So, ever since then, I had been really careful about how, like, I held the grain bag as I tried to untie the knot. Or sometimes what I would do is I would just, it's getting it off the pulley is the hard part. So it's like now, sometimes like Haley will spot me and she'll like help me hold it or whatever. But and now it's even more complicated because we have one that you can kind of cinch. It's got like a drawstring,
nice.
Which is great. But it's weirdly hard to like tie. So Haley ends up taking the drawstring and like doing a billion knots with that around the pulley too. So it's just really hard to take off. But anywho, so. We got that down. I haven't dropped one since. Now, it may be relevant to know that, those like, if you were to hang a bike from your garage ceiling, you'd use one of those hooks.
Yeah, one of those little twist hooks.
Yeah. So that's what our pulley's hanging from. So
oh God, I already know this.
A few brews later, I was just, we weren't even to that part yet. I was tugging on the pulley to get the grain bag up, and I got about halfway up, and I just tugged the whole darn
the whole darn hook. Never heard of these stories.
The whole darn hook just came out of the ceiling. Just so the whole shebang, the pulley and everything fell into the beer. Thank God we hadn't boiled yet. But
so by the rules of like increased value, the next time this happens, the whole roof of the garage is going to come down.
That's absolutely right. Yeah,
I'm sorry I'm going to put this evil on you, but that's what's going to happen next.
Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. But yeah, so mercifully, at least, yeah, right. We're just going to bring the whole house down with us.
Oh my goodness!
So there were some little wood bits we had to pick out.
Was this your sour?
No, it wasn't. Yeah. But at least we hadn't boiled yet, so it was like we killed all the nasties. The beer tasted okay.
Wait, which beer was this?
I don't remember, but it turned out great. Whatever it was, it tasted really good. But also we'd upgraded to this giant 15-gallon pot, so very little spilled out. We lost maybe a quarter gallon versus a gallon the first time, so that was nice too. But yeah, that was lame. So now, when I've learned a lesson that, just due to the kind of friction associated with our pulley, you have to yank really hard on the one side to get it to pull up. So now I kind of help it. I hold the grain bag in the air, and then I pull on the pulley.
So we need to get you an actual pulley system that's supposed to like do that for you without any issues.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
Christmas gift. I'm gonna write that down.
I don't know. Yeah, so you're talking about just like some kind of low friction, like you spin something in a circle type of thing. Yeah, maybe. But yeah, we've got it pretty worked out now. I say now until our garage comes down.
I'm sorry, I put that evil on you.
You jerk. Okay, so that's
that was amazing. No, that's how have you not shared these stories?
Actually, why I didn't, because I knew we'd be doing another one of these episodes. I thought maybe that was the reason you hadn't shared the story about the porter too.
Well, I posted. It's funny. Like as soon as it happened, I did post it on TikTok and everything.
I'm not.
And I even said like, "This is my next misadventure," so you guys know. But you can listen to the podcast when it happens.
Did you? Oh, so you just posted the aftermath?
I posted that same video I showed you, the aftermath of everything happened.
That's great. Oh man, yeah. These episodes are so much fun.
I know. Oh, they're such. That's what we're doing. They're a great way to start the season off. Because again, we're not experts.
We sure ain't.
All right, with that, I think it's a great time to take a break. I think it's going to be me again, then you again, and then we'll get some of the listeners who...
Can't wait to hear the listeners.
I know, there are some good ones in there. But until we get back, we're listening to some fan fiction, or we're listening to Studio Demands It, another Zelda podcast. Check them out. But
or if this is far in the future, maybe we're getting ads from like Coca-Cola and Amazon.
You never know, all right? Cheers.
Psst, hey you, come over here.
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Okay.
Hey, do you like Zelda?
Yeah, I like Zelda. Who doesn't?
Oh, yeah? You like video games?
Yeah, I dabble. I play them, yeah.
Yeah. Do you like listening to people talk about video games?
Of course I like listening to people. Who reads anymore?
Well, buddy, do I got a podcast for you. It's called Fan Fiction, with an X.
Oh,
And you can find it on all your major podcast distributors.
that sounds amazing.
Oh, buddy, you have no idea.
One question, though. Why are you in my room?
One a hakalugi of a mead exploding from a bottle as I opened it and covered myself and the kitchen in mead. Well, that wasn't the story that got me banned from brewing. This is going to be the story.
That was bad enough.
So, about the same time frame, actually. It's probably a few months after that happened. And as if you recall, the reason I was having these issues, because I was trying to get out as much meat as possible and taking the yeast with it, and then I would bottle it, and the yeast would still eat up all the sugars.
You should wake up and go, hey,
there's more sugar here.
Snacks.
So, when I made one of your favorites, actually, the elderberry fig, the Great Kuhn mead, as we call it, I made that and I put it into. This is the worst part too. It was an old school Kuhn growler, which is a brewery near us here. It had a really cool logo, and they don't make that. They didn't make that style anymore.
Oh, this is getting tragic already.
This is very tragic. So I had it most fit in a growler. I had one and a fifth as well, and I had one of those little IKEA liquor cabinets that you kind of put up and build up and put up in there, and you can put bottles inside the chest itself. You can hang up glasses in there as well. It was a nice little cabinet. It was a nice little cabinet. So we went up north with some friends and family, and there we don't really have a lot of service. We had a friend watching the apartment, which we had the cat at the time, Thorin. And we finally got some service, and Mal's phone buzzed, and it was a picture from our friend who was watching the house, and it was a picture of purple carpet and drips going on anywhere within this liquor cabinet. And by looking at it, the growler exploded. Cat was fine.
Yep.
It was inside the cabinet, so it was like the explosion didn't go anywhere on the roof or ceiling or anything else like that.
Glass shards in your ceiling.
It was contained within that, but it did not contain the liquid as it dripped everywhere.
Which is the real tragedy.
It is elderberry and fig, rich, deep purple, onto a apartment carpet, which is just like beige in general, and
It's always beige.
it is always beige. And I looked at that, and Mal looked at me, and she said, "Basement." In which the ongoing joke we had, the ongoing joke that we had at the time was, if I bought anything that I really wanted and she didn't like, it went into the basement, which we have a lot down here.
Oh, wow, honey, that's going to look really nice in our basement someday.
Yes. So I was banned from even mead. I went to mead because I didn't have space to do beer. I was banned from brewing altogether until we got an actual basement to brew in, so everything can stay in there. And honestly, since then, and the two events coinciding with each other, every time I open up mead, I'm like, Actually, what was it? It was one of the Pater beer actually that you made and gave me a bottle of. It was in that same gross bottle.
The flip top. Yeah.
I was like, I know it's not going to do anything, but I'm so hesitant now. I'm just like, pop. And I'm like, okay, nothing happened. We're good. But yeah, no, that was what banned me from brewing anything until we actually bought our house here, and that's when I started rebrewing everything again.
Yeah.
So.
And ironically, now that you have the permission, have you?
I have
knock on wood, but no,
have not had
nothing
any
like
issues.
that has happened yet, right?
No, because I don't do meat as often, and now I know why it was all happening. So even if I'm leaving,
you know how to fix the.
I know not to get every little drop of meat out of it because I want to make sure the yeast stays away from everything, especially when I'm bottling.
Back then, you knew enough to be dangerous. Now you know enough to be safe.
Exactly.
Theoretically,
and now I do let the meat sit for a very long time. Like I have one with the bubbler on, making sure there's nothing happening with it, and I can still see some yeast on the bottom, even of that bottle right there, and that's been sitting there for a long time. So, and I think I've racked it. That would be the third time I racked it, and it still has the yeast cake on the bottom, just a little bit. So it is. You got to be careful with it. You just got to make sure the yeast has done its thing. So, but yeah, that was Misadventure number 2, honestly. Maybe Misadventure number 3 altogether.
Yeah.
When
Matt and I were chronologically in your
chronologically in order, I think that was probably either 3 or 4 Misadventure.
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
All right. What do you got?
Okay. So let me give you. So okay.
Set the scene?
Yes, I'm gonna say. Well, I'm gonna give you some relevant scientific information about corny kegs.
Okay.
So we ferment in corny kegs, and we.
Yes.
So they have a little, an outlet on both sides, a little adapter called a ball lock. You snap something onto that, this little plastic adapter, and it sort of depresses down this little stopper.
Yeah.
And that allows either air or beer to flow through. And there's one side for air, one side for beer. So we ferment in kegs as well. So the way that you can ferment in a keg is you take the dip tube, which is, it pulls beer off the bottom of the keg.
Yeah.
You shorten that by about an inch or something so that when the yeast falls out, when you transfer out of what you're fermenting in, you don't pick up all the yeast and bring it with you into the final keg.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, then really other than that, it's you just sort of, you attach a little blow-off tube, so just a tube with an open end that's going into a little glass of sanitizer, and you attach that on the CO2 end. So the yeast make the CO2 goes up through the gas line side, and just bubbles out of this little glass, and that's all great. And we serve beer at about 10 to 15 psi, and a corny keg is rated to hold up to 60 psi. And so if you're over 60 psi, there's this little, it's called a pressure release valve, the one you can pull. So that will also automatically open if it exceeds the maximum pressure. So it's nice.
Yeah.
You can't turn your keg into a bomb.
Yes. That was honestly what kept me away from kegging for a long time.
Yeah. You can't turn it into a bomb because, the pressure will automatically release if it needs to. Now, with that said, I got darn close to doing so because we were brewing I forget even what the beer was. I think it was the Kolsch, which this year, the Kolsch, turned out well. I'm proud to say that we had a big old 4th of July party. We had combat it with, delayed COVID robbed us of first birthday parties for our kids' party. And we tapped the whole dang thing in a day, which was really exciting.
We had quite a few people. It was all
We had a
outside.
lot, it wasn't four of us. It was
I mean, that'd be
we had 60 people there. Yeah, but so
we'll do that with monologue.
Yeah. That'll just be
we'll finish
you,
that
me,
one.
and Danny. Yeah, but yeah. So the beer turned out great. However, so the first day is bubbling like crazy. So if you fill the keg too much and the kreuzen gets up all the way to the top, you can blow off a bunch of beer into your blow-off tube, which is why it's called the blow-off tube. Yeah. But we blew off a lot of beer. I had filled up. I keep a a little one of those big Oktoberfest steins.
I do the same thing.
Hofbrauhaus ones.
I think I have one.
I fill that at the bottom with sanitizer, and that's what I blow off into. That thing was overflowing.
Yes.
On the first day, and that's okay. That's fine.
This is a Kolsch doing this?
It was a Kolsch, yeah.
Wow.
I maybe overfilled the keg a little bit.
Still.
Part of the problem with a keg is you have very little headspace.
Yeah.
But the Kolsch yeast gets after it, man.
See, I had that happen with my stouts and even the triple we did.
Yeah.
We were ready for it, but never with anything like that, like a Kolsch.
Yeah. One way or the other, it happened, and then 72 hours into fermentation, I came in and it just wasn't bubbling anymore, and I was like, this isn't right. It was fermenting vigorously, but no beer finishes in 2 days.
No.
So I was checking the tube and moving it up and down and whatever. Everything seemed fine And then I heard this little sound, and I looked at. I found the source of it. It was the top of the keg was the pressure release valve. So it had gone. The Kreuzen had blocked the gas line, the gas outlet, and it was sitting there at 60 psi, bleeding little bubbles out of its pressure release valve very slowly and making this hissing sound. And I was like, oh, well, the gas line must be blocked. So I just took the ball valve and I just tapped it like that. And the entire, 3-foot gas line just went like an elephant trunk, went and just blasted like this arc around my bathroom. Because we ferment in the shower, but it blasted just this spray of beer and yeast up the wall of the shower, up onto the ceiling. It hit the mirror, it got everywhere. Oh no! You know what? This can't have been the Kolsch because we had a full keg of the Kolsch. But it was around that time. It was a different beer, so don't take that with a grain of salt. But because the reason I know this is because either way, I then went, So I held it the next time, and I emptied the blow off tube, and then I just started pressing down the gas relief side to just kind of open up a gap in the blockage and let it blow out. And I filled that entire thing once. The mug,
yeah.
And it was still blowing out like crazy high pressures. So I got a 5-gallon bucket. I blew off a full gallon of beer in just blow off gas, like bubbles basically, into that bucket. It must have taken 15 minutes to vent all of the pressure that was in there. It was insane. And then I think at the end of it, what I ended up having to do was transfer the beer to another fermentation keg and finish it in there and just clean the crap out of the first one. It was a mess, an absolute mess. And you know what? I don't remember what the beer was, but I specifically remember that it turned out just fine.
Just fine.
It was okay.
I mean, I think could have been the Pater's beer.
Maybe, yeah, might have been actually.
It was about the same time frame.
Yeah, it was a very similar time frame, and and that was Belgian yeast, so that would make a lot of sense.
Yes,
because they make a mess.
Yes, they do. I did the triple once, and it was. I think we did the same thing. We had it connected with. We didn't think we just put a bubbler on top, and within 12 hours, beer was getting into the bubbler itself.
Wow.
I'm like, oh,
yeah.
So we had to maneuver a tube into the cork itself and the stopper, and then into a giant mug, just like you were saying, with sandy water. I think I did vodka, actually, because I hate vodka.
No, that's smart too, yeah.
So just poured in the vodka, and it's just, it was going, you could hear, we had it set in, when we were living this, we were renting this house, we had it set off to the side in like a adjoining room between the living room and the kitchen, and it was right there. Whether you're in the kitchen cooking or you're watching TV, you could just hear.
Yeah, it's voracious.
It is,
yeah.
And I've seen it. I walked through a few breweries actually when they're brewing, and they have the same thing. They'll do the big 5-gallon buckets full of sandy water with the tube connected to it, and it's doing the same thing, and it's going crazy with the bubbles on the inside the breweries and everything. So.
Dude, a 5-gallon bucket bubblers. I mean, it's a brewery, so it makes sense.
Yeah, no, because they're doing
level.
15 gallons or something like
right,
that. So it makes absolute sense. All right. So as promised, we got some listener feedback on their own event, other misadventures throughout brewing. Some of it's mead, some of it's beer, but they're all great stories. And I kind of want to see your reaction to some of them and see what you think. But why would be some of the reactions?
Oh, no.
Because the first one is definitely going to be that, because we thought about I know at least I thought about doing this and then realized no. So this is from Mead Weaver. He obviously does mead. There you go. He said, I once experimented using a sous vide to keep maple water warm to see if flavors would develop. And then he continued saying, after a week, it looked like something from another planet. Definitely didn't even want to taste it. So I thought about using a sous vide to I think you use it to kind of get your water going.
When we used to, we used to like do a kind of a second step where we would like, we didn't have enough space to do all of our brew in a bag at once, so we do it with a reduced volume and then dunk it in like preheated water as like a mash out.
Yeah.
And we'd use our sous vide for that.
Yeah.
I've seen this thing where somebody like showed this little image of like using a little like metal hop spider, putting it around your sous vide, and that, in their experience, protects it enough from all the goop of wort that you can brew that way. You can use it to like... I wouldn't, no. Because they're expensive if you break them.
Yes.
I guess that's the guy who bought a propane burner, but like... Yeah. Still.
I think that's still cheaper than a sous vide, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Now, I know our father-in-law uses a sous vide to do a little bit where he does the...
the pineapple and tequila.
Pineapple tequila. So he'll do like
but
a
I
big...
think he does all that in a bag.
In a bag, though, yes. So he'll do the water with sous vide, warming up the water, and in a bag he'll put whatever. I think he does pineapple for one, he does lemon lime for another, and then in that bag with the fruit, he'll pour the tequila in it, and then seal it, put it in there, and let it cook for, I think he said like an hour or something like that, 45 minutes. And that comes out great. That makes sense to me. I really would have just
leaving it going to see what grows.
Yeah, no.
That's I'm not surprised to hear there was trouble.
All right, so next one, it's the Bruin. Great name. He said, I tried doing a test small batch, used a smaller pot on the kitchen stove so I wouldn't have to go outside. Hot break got away, and before I knew it, I had a bad boil over with some hot and sticky wort everywhere. And in parentheses, he put, I was in a doghouse with the wife for a bit. Now, have you ever had yours overflow like that? Well, like if you when you get into the boil and then all of a sudden it just bubbles and goes over?
Once. So we first wort hop usually, and the whole idea behind a first wort hop, from what I understand, is that rather than adding like your 60-minute hop after the boil starts, you add it before, like when you start heating. So it's not that different, but apparently it's like that whole hop break happens when like a bunch of the proteins from the hops reach a certain temperature.
Okay.
And, you know, they kind of foam up and then the foam collapses and whatever. But, like, you can force that to kind of happen already before your boil if you first wort hop. So that's like, I've heard that. I've never, you know, it seems like it makes sense. So I have started my 60-minute, I always do is like a first wort like that. I do it before the boil, and we've never had any issues since we started doing that. We did have one kind of minor boil over that happened because our beer started boiling when we weren't looking, and it did exactly what you described. But luckily, like, we kind of caught it early. We stirred a little bit, it came back down. It just kind of, the only bummer was just that, you know, then it's like all that sugar cooks onto your equipment, and it's really hard to get off because it burns and caramelizes, and it just stains everything. Yeah. So
I've had it happen.
Our 5-gallon still has like little black marks on the outside from it, and our turkey cooker too does on its legs.
Well, I've had it happen once or twice. I went so long without it ever happening, and then out of nowhere it just started happening a little bit, and it was before I even put the hops in. So like, I was waiting for it to get to the boil, and I caught it right. I saw it because it did this, like how you pour, when you pour beer, sometimes you get like more of a crown.
Yeah.
I caught the crown.
Right, it starts to kind of have a shape.
Yes. And then I completely cut the gas off, the heat off altogether. And then thankfully it just went a little bit over. It didn't go too bad, but then it fell back down. I'm like, oh crap.
yeah, dodged the bullet.
I got, and then from then on, like, I'm always like, I'm watching you. Cause I don't know, maybe because I do use extract, and I think the powdered, the dry extract is more prone to it maybe. Because I did switch from liquid to dry, because liquid extract is so sticky and messy. I hate dealing with it.
Yeah, talk about the potential for a mess. Yeah.
Yes. That by itself, it's a complete mess. Let's see who else we got here. 1042 Brewing. He said he oxidized his own NEPA for his own wedding.
Oh no.
And then he said the keg was still pretty full at the end of the night because no one wanted to drink it. That's
I've heard that's I mean, I've never made in New England, but have you ever? I actually just had this. I had one in my fridge. It was a little old. It was from a smaller brewery that I will not name, and I poured it out, and it kind of had like a purple color to it. Have you ever had one like that? Because apparently that can happen in New England, especially. They can you can tell when they're oxidized because they kind of start looking sort of purpley. And definitely didn't. It was okay actually, but it definitely didn't taste fresh.
Yeah. No, it was. I've
heard they're really prone to it, of like all beer styles.
Well, because you gotta dry hop it, so like you might oxidize. That's where you probably see. I'm. This is me being an amateur and me not being like super like fine tuned with some of the stuff I do. I have a greater potential of oxidizing because like when I like with the mead right there, like I'm gonna take that stopper out. I'm gonna stick the tube in for stick the siphon in and then siphon into the next one and put the stopper back on. Like it can oxidize there.
Yeah,
it's not like
there's
it's not super.
For some oxygen ingress, yeah.
But it's not like it's to me at least. It's not a huge like, oh crap, this is definitely going to happen every time it happens. Like it's just a possibility that it could happen. Yeah. And thankfully, I have not had it happen yet.
Haven't had one yet,
yeah.
I've definitely, like, when we've bottled, like, those bottles of Firstborn that we brought up to the cottage, like, those to me were starting to taste a little old. Like, it's not... I think when you do a hoppy beer, it ruins it in a more holistic way, where it's just like, there's no point anymore. This tastes disgusting.
Yeah.
But for, like, an amber ale, it just kind of... just a little flatter... and it just tasted older. There's I think that oxidized flavor I interpret as just tasting like age.
Yeah.
And it just, it was a little less bright. So I've definitely had it happen with my bottled beers, especially like Haley and I have kind of, we've changed our bottling method recently to kind of try and fight it. But like we don't use a beer gun or anything, so it can definitely happen.
Yeah, and definitely bottling. Yeah,
that's a bummer.
Yeah, and that's why
a
actually
heck of a bummer.
When I bottle, unless I know the bottle like some off, like I know you. That's how you and Haley kind of plan ahead to bottle some specifically.
Yeah, we usually, if we're gonna bottle, we'll bottle condition before we keg.
Yeah, so I will use kind of filling a growler, almost using that same piece of the tubing and everything to get into a regular beer bottle. That's how I fill some beer bottles. And they say the best way to fight an oxidation and to keep it from getting flat as well is to make sure
all the way.
Not beer all the way, but even the bubbles.
Oh,
if
yeah.
you get bubbles all the way to the top, there's no room for oxygen to get in because it's all the bubbles, and then you cap it, and then you should be fine.
Right.
But
presumably all the airspace in there is just escape CO2.
Exactly.
That's the idea.
So like when I brought the beer to the cottage itself, there was some oxidation there and some of the flat beer as well because it just wasn't quite good enough. If you're going to bottle,
it wasn't quite the same as having it off the tap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So next one, I think I got a couple more. This is from Brewthers-In-Law. He said, yesterday, this was a while ago, I was brewing and I put the wort chiller in the pot and one of the silicone tubes got a hole burnt in it. And once I turned on the water to chill the wort, water sprayed everywhere. The garage floor was flooded.
Oh no.
And I saw this and it made me think of you guys a little bit.
Misadventures 1 was our kitchen flood.
Yes.
Oh man, that's a bummer, dude. Dude, what a panic moment too, because it's just like, it's a key important moment. You got to get it cold or the hops are just going to keep on isomerizing. So what do you do?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I definitely feel for you. Yeah, we've been in a very similar scenario. I'd be curious to know, if you're listening to the episode, did a bunch of it get into the beer, the water?
I was thinking the same thing, actually.
The hose water, was the beer okay?
Well, when I didn't read the second half because it's in two parts.
You can build a new garage, but what about the beer?
Exactly. Well, I was thinking the same thing. Like, I was wondering, like, I thought it was more thinking that the copper tubing itself, not the plastic tubing getting out. But like, imagine if it was like a hole in the copper, and it just went, and all of a sudden your beer just went and overflowed and everything.
Now
and
it's
your beer's
1.5%. Well, it's cold now, so I guess that's something.
All right, and I'm gonna shoot this out real quick. We did get one actually fun little comment saying this is Miss Reed Southern. She said, "Very excited, and I love the name of your podcast." I thought that was. I didn't notice that there's
Aw.
a little bottom of the picture.
Thank you.
But the last misadventure that I got here, Dizzy Claire drinks beer. And literally all it says is, LOL, many explosions with wine all over the floor.
Oh, no. Wine, though.
Wine. I actually have a fun one with wine.
I have a feeling that wine, like I think red wine especially, might be the stainiest. Well, you know what? I think elderberry fig could hold its own with it.
We got most of it off the carpet. We got one of those
Did you? Okay.
rug doctor things.
Yeah,
we did it like 4
did you rent
times,
one
but we
from
got
Home
most of it
Depot?
out.
Yeah.
I don't think we got the full deposit back on that.
I feel like even more than like an imperial stout, something about red wine just doesn't want to come off.
Yeah. Now I do have a fun story with red wine actually. So Elvis, my old roommate, him and I lived together, and he used to work at a winery. He worked at Fieldstone, actually, for a long time. And we would get bottles of wine all the time. But one time I came home from work, and sitting in our kitchen was a 5-gallon carboy of red wine. And I'm like, what is this? And he said, well, it didn't quite turn out the way they wanted it, so they were just going to dump it. And I said, I'll just take it. And so I did. And and the reason it wasn't up to the standards because it was already vinegar.
Oh no, it was red wine vinegar.
So like we've first night, okay, poured some out, took a sip. Okay.
So we could cook with this.
We did for a little bit. We had 5 gallons of it. We
That's
were
a lot
running
to
out of
cook
things
with.
to do.
That's a lot to cook.
So
with.
like we messed with some of the younger guys and made them drink some of it as well, and then like we made a drinking game out of it as well
that
too.
would be such a fun like thing to just everybody else pretend like. So this is $500 a bottle. It's from France, so it's only grown in 1 square mile in the entire world, and it is literally maybe the choicest wine you can ever get. And then just everybody take a sip and pretend it's good and see what somebody does. That would be such a good prank.
I did something like that with vodka shots.
Oh no!
I had a friend who wanted to do vodka shots. That's all he wanted to do, and I cannot stand vodka, as I said earlier. And so I went and ordered them every single time, and I'd be like, 1 shot of water and shots of vodka for everyone else. And I can't stand it. I'll drink beer. I'll do shots of tequila. I'll do shots of whiskey. I'll do Jaeger bombs. At that point in time, at least, I was doing Jaeger bombs. But like vodka was the one thing I could not stand, and that's why it's a rule for the Advent calendar that we do not do vodka. That was the one rule we put down.
I don't remember that, but I was never going to. So it's fine.
I think it was vodka and no Captain Morgan's.
Not really. Yeah, that's my.
I think that was you. Yeah,
that's a hard rule. I'll be very angry.
Yes,
and sad at the same time.
But yeah,
I would be curious. Who did you say you had posted that comment about the wine?
That was Dizzy Claire drinks beer, and she talks about wine.
If you're a listener, I would love to know what sort of wine you made and if it was good. Because I've always wondered, like, home winemaking has always seemed like, I don't know what it is about wine. Because beer, I'm like, I can make beer as good as these people. But wine, it just, I don't know, seems more complicated. And, like, I would never be able to make a wine good enough that I would want to drink it. More than just going, well, I made it and I spent money on it. And it's not as good as the other stuff, but I might as well had it.
I'm waiting for our in-laws. I'm waiting for our in-laws. Both of them now retired. They're going to
start making Pinot.
They're going to make a whole bunch of Pinot Grigio.
Pinot Grigio clone. Dude.
You know, like, beer's coming. You know wine's going to be coming. Like,
I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I think he will. I think wine will definitely show up.
I bet if he can make a Liberty Creek clone, yeah.
Oh, yes.
That's like immunity from the doghouse for
life. Especially since I remember there was a point in time where, like, they weren't able to find it. So he was stockpiling.
Now.
Oh, still now.
Yeah, I think it's hard to find, and they just have a stockpile.
Yeah, they have a huge stockpile. All right. My dog is ringing the bell, so I think we should probably get wrapping up here soon.
Is Rex telling us that it's time to tell people where to find us.
I think that's what the bell's saying for, actually.
Thank you, Rex. Wow. He's keeping us on
He's
time.
keeping us timely.
What a best boy. So you can find us on Twitter at Brewthers-In-Law, or alternatively on our website at brewthers-in-law.com, where there is some additional info about the websites and our podcast. Mm-hmm. Ryan, where else can people find you?
Mostly TikTok. That's where I got a lot of these comments from. You're
so youthful.
I'm so youthful. They did not they were perfect. Best comments I've found in a long time. And when we do the American Lager episode, I asked everyone what's their go-to American Lager. I got some good answers there as well. So,
oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
That's good. All you told me before is you got overwhelmingly one answer.
I did get overwhelmingly one answer, but...
Though, if you hear this and you hit up Ryan and guess what that one answer was, if you weren't one of those people that responded.
They're just going to look up the video I took. Right. Oh, that's the one!
Yeah.
So TikTok is the main one. I am on Twitter, Wise Old Alice Brew, and also my personal one. I'm on there every so often, Rainbow Kuhn, Kuhn. We are also on Instagram. We're also on Facebook. You can find us there for any episode updates. And like you said, I believe you said the website, brewthers-in-law.com. And of course, wherever you listen to your podcasts, make sure you rate us, subscribe,
review,
follow, whatever those things are.
Send us money.
Use.
Send us flowers.
Send us beer. Send us beer. I appreciate that. I will not fight you on that, guys.
Right.
I will honestly, if you ever want to send us beer, I have a PO box. You can send it to that. But until next time, we'll be talking more misadventures.
Until the next misadventure.
Guys. Cheers. Cheers.